Shape effects inside of shaders makes it easy to create those popular effects you see like liquid glass or liquid metal, and you can do it not just using 2D and 3D shapes, but also using your own logo, both static SVG in 2D space or even extruded into 3D space. It sounds really difficult, but it's actually quite easy with shape effects. So let's dive in and take a look at what that actually looks like. I'm going to start by jumping down here into the Insert toolbar, and if you click on this little lightning bolt icon, that's our Shapes Effects category. So in here, you'll see all of the effects and a quick preview of sort of what they might look like, and we can play with what these end up being. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick one of these, or maybe a couple of these, play with them, and show you essentially how to work with them. Let's start with, perhaps we'll start with a common one, glass. So liquid glass is something that is very popular in a lot of just front-end code today, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do well. WebGPU, you can do some of it in like SVG filters. I've seen a lot of people just do it in WebGL. We're going to do it in shaders, which is WebGPU first, and we're going to be able to mix it and match it with other content to create cool effects. So here I have basic glass, and it's in the shape of a circle by default. Let me go ahead and add some texture to our scene so we can see the effect of the glass refracting. So I'm going to go ahead and just add hello world as some text. And if you've been watching the rest of the tutorial so far, you'll know I like to use Geist. And I'm just going to go ahead and just make a big text element. I'm going to put it directly in the center of the screen. Now you'll see we have our glass element. It's behind the text, so it's not refracting anything. If I move this in front of the text, now you start to see that refraction. And we have controls for everything from the Fresnel, which is sort of this outside glow, all the way to how impactful that refraction is. How thick into the glass do we push that? Do we create some sort of color fringing on the edges? And thanks to WebGPU and the compute shaders that we can run, we also have blur filters, so we can blur this glass out in a really nice way to create a nice glass effect. And that might be all you need to do, right? I could imagine you literally just dropping an image into the background, adding liquid glass on top of it, and that's all you need to do to create a cool effect. Like I could scale this glass up, put it in the corner, and maybe have an image like slowly moving in the background or something like that. And voila, we've created a cool modern effect that runs really, really fast in the shader's render runtime. So let me go ahead and just drop that circle back into the middle. I'll keep the blur for now, just, because it's there. You'll see we have a bunch of available shapes. So I could make this in the shape of a polygon, or I could make it in the shape of a heart. This one was actually a request by my daughter. She was looking through the shapes and she wanted to add a harder shape, so this one is for her. Let's go and look at some of the other shapes. I'll skip most of the 2D ones. You kind of get a sense for how that works. We also provide for 3D shapes. So let's look at sphere. It's a great option. It's very similar to circle, obviously, because we're rendering in a 2D canvas. But if I turn blur down, you'll notice this one renders very differently because it's using actual 3D spherical refraction, which is different than a 2D circular refraction. I'll turn the blur back up just a little bit, give us that nice texture. Now let's pick a different 3D shape. You've probably seen in previous tutorials we have a cube. So here's a cube shape and it's refracting with the glass. We can move it around. We can do everything we want the same way we do with other layers, but we can just do it with this layer and it will refract as it moves around the content behind it, which means we can also move the content behind it and we can also animate the content, right? So if I was to say this background gradient needs to speed up, there you go. Now it's going nice and fast, and our glass is on top of it. This glass has a bit of a soft edge right now. If you're wondering why, that's because the thickness value is all the way up. As you push that down on a 3D shape, you tend to lose some of that thickness and get a nice harder edge. So that's glass. That's one of the possible effects. Let me go ahead and show you what this looks like when we're talking about custom logos. So you might want to say, okay, I love this. This is perfect for my brand. The only downside is I want to put my logo in here, right? That's not my logo. So I'm going to go to custom SVG. Now this allows you to upload any shape you want. I'm going to open this up, and I don't know what I've uploaded recently, just a bunch of random logos, but here's the Apple logo. We'll use this for an example. There's our Apple logo, and I can scale that down either here or just by manually dragging the controls, and there you go. You've got glass, liquid glass in the shape of your logo. You can also take it from geometry flat to Geometry Extrude, and this is where your logo goes from 2D to 3D. If I was to drop that thickness down just a little bit so we can get a nice clear look at those edges, I can extrude a little bit further, maybe choose to bevel a little bit, and now I've got a 3D version of my SVG logo. So this was just an SVG file, right? This was just the Apple logo as an SVG that I dropped in, which means you can do this with any sort of look. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this into a new shader over here, and actually probably, ironically, delete most of it except the dark background that I have hidden back here. And I'm going to do a completely different look. So going back to shape effects, I'm going to go to light edge. Now, this may look familiar. Paper shaders actually had pulsing border, and they went open source, and we talked to them and actually were able to port this over to WebGPU into our renderer. So this is based on an original paper shader. But light edge, again, looks really nice, works on any of the effects, works in 2D and works in 3D really well, but we're going to use it for custom SVG. I'm going to go ahead and upload the shaders logo. I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop that directly from my desktop into this panel here so you can see it live, just how quick it is. I'm going to drop the shaders logo in there, and there it is. I am going to extrude that geometry, and this doesn't look great by default, right? It's looking pretty bad, actually. But you're going to see something cool in a minute. So check this out. I'm going to increase the depth of that logo. It looks really weird at an angle. Let me take rotation and reset rotation to 0. Now things are starting to look a little bit better. We can actually see our logo, although the glow itself is a little weird. Let's go down to our glow controls. I'm going to come down here to thickness and softness, and I'm just going to play with it until I am happy with the sort of glow that I got going on. That's quite nice. Okay, now do we want to change some of these colors? We could. I could change the way the colors are blending. I could change this. I'm happy with the fill mode, that's fine. Maybe we just change the colors by randomizing them, right? I'm going to hit randomize a few times until I really like the look of the colors that I'm seeing. Kind of wants, that's interesting, kind of the blues and oranges. I feel like I should do something interesting with the middle color. I always tend to go back to the purples myself. And let's call that our effect. This looks nice. And you might be wondering, okay, well, why did you extrude it only to make it 2D again, right? Only to put it forward facing. And that's because now, while we don't have a timeline or any concept of a timeline within shaders itself, you can animate these props once they get to your code base. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this, and I'm just going to rotate it up. And when I do, look at that. It's sort of disappearing into this glowing form, right? It's becoming more of an outline, and as I move it down, it sort of coalesces into the actual logo. So this could work really well for a hero section, for a loading page. If you really wanted to go crazy on a loading page, you could use this in very different ways on your website. You can make it interactive on scroll, so as the user scrolls down the page, a logo comes into play. All this is, as you can see here on the left-hand side, it's the X rotation. So you can take this into code, and you say if I hit export, go to the code, you could come down here to light edge, light edge, which has a shape with rotation X -42. So you would just take this prop, animate that prop, and there you go. You've got something that looks cool. I can actually, because this is a dynamic prop capable prop, I can actually just attach this to the mouse Y. And check that out. Now I can control it. I might even say our maximum value is 0 or next to 0, and our minimum value is like probably -90-ish. We'll call it that. So now as I move the cursor all the way up to the top of the page, it's blown out. And as I bring it back down to the bottom of the preview, now we're suddenly in focus. And we can obviously go past that, but yeah, you get the point. That is just 2 of all of the available shape effects that we have. We have some really cool effects. We have, I'm going to go real quickly here and just kind of preview a couple of them. We have heat map, yet another one ported over from paper shaders, one of the 2 that have been ported over so far. We have smoke fill, which is one of the interactive ones. You may be familiar with smoke from our interactive collection. You can actually just move your cursor over this and interact with the smoke, and you can control the smoke emitter within the shape itself. So imagine your own logo filling up with smoke. We have shape effects that look like metal, And they work really well when you put them onto sort of this interactive moving geometry, such as metaballs or ribbon, where you can actually have, something that looks like a 3D metallic shape. Just a bunch of things that we can see here. So I'm going to leave this as this video, but you can go into shaders.com, open the design editor. There are a bunch of shape effects. I highly recommend playing with your own custom SVGs, especially extruding that geometry and just seeing what you can create.